welcome to Tea Time with Tim. So, in this episode, what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about, one, we're going to talk about my first job and all the things that I learned in my first job that are still applicable today. And the biggest things with it being applicable with today is that, no matter what job you get into, these are the things that I've really, really learned that go a long way. And I'm having some technical issues here with some of the uploads, but we're going to get through that. So this is the first tea time with Tim that we're going to be talking about. And really what this is, it's going to be me drinking some tea, and hopefully you'll have a cup of tea and you'll drink in as well. And by tea, I don't mean drama. So a lot of people may think, oh, he's going to spill some tea. No, I'm not going to talk about drama. What I am going to talk about is leadership principles and things that you can actually apply in the workplace because they go a long way. So if you're tuning in, one, I really appreciate you taking your lunchtime to do that. I picked the lunchtime because it's usually the least busy that people are. If you can turn it on your car while you're driving to lunch, or if you eat in your car for lunch, or if you're in the office, you can plug in some headphones and you can just kind of, listen to the episode. So we're going to get right into it since none of my music is working, even though I tested it out earlier, but things happen. So the first thing is my first job that I ever got. So I'm not going to get into the actual company's name, but I worked when I got hired to work cleaning the dining room and the bathrooms, taking out the trash, refreshing the condiments, and really just making sure that the front place of the organization and of the restaurant where people ate were clean and tidy. And so at 15 going on 16, I was like, hey, this is a great job. I get paid minimum wage. So I think at the time was like $5.15. So I was super excited about that I was going to be making some money doing the chores I usually did around the house. But I just now did it at this one place that I worked at, and it worked out pretty good. So as I was working there for a couple of weeks, one of the gentlemen in the back, who was one of the main cooks, and he was a shift lead in the back, he came up to me and he said, hey, he goes, do you really like cleaning the bathroom, sweeping the floors, taking out the trash? And I was like, yeah, I get paid for it. It's pretty good. I said, but eventually I want to move on to the registers where I can take people's orders and then, do that piece because it's a little bit different. And I said, but, the manager told me that once I turned a certain age, then he would train me to do it and he would put it on there. And then he said something that I would never forget. He told me, he goes, you know what? He was like, no one's going to show you. He goes, if you want to learn it, he goes, all you need to do is when it's not busy, ask somebody who already knows it to train you up and do it. And he goes, oh, by the way, the more you know on how to do here, the more you're going to get paid. He was like, so, you've been working here great, but you're not going to get paid anymore because that's all you know how to do. So the more you know how to do, the more you're going to get paid. And I was like, oh, I like more money. So yeah. So I would hang out in the dining room. I'd clean up, do what I need to do. And it wasn't busy. I'd go ask one of the cashiers at the register, say, hey, can you show me how to use this machine? Can you show me what I need to know? To take orders, to take money, how does the whole process work? Can you walk me through it? And they were more than happy to share it with me and to show me because they got some sense of pride in sharing that with me. And so in between cleaning the dining room and when it wasn't busy asking people to train me, like a couple weeks later, I went up to the general manager and I said, hey, I know how to do the registers. I've been training on it for the last couple of weeks. Why don't you put me on the registers? Can you do that? And he goes, well, who trained you how to do that? And I said, well, I asked the people who were on the registers to do that, and they trained me up. And he started laughing, and he was like, they weren't authorized to do that. And I was like, well, you can test me on it. And if I know it well enough, then you could put me on it. And if I don't, then why don't you show me what I don't know? And then we can move forward, and then you can put me on the registers. Now I know now you have a dining room person who can also do the registers. So I could do two things. I can clean the dining room and I can do registers when it gets super busy and need an extra person to jump on. It's a win-win situation. Why don't we do that? And he goes, okay, I think we could do that. Sure, why not? So he went down the roll and he was like, okay, I'm this customer and this is what I'm ordering. And I punched everything in. He goes, okay, I gave you this much money. All right, how much do you get in return? And we went through all of that. And he was like, yeah. He goes, there's a couple things I need to teach you. He goes, but you know the basics. So yeah, you're going to work in the dining room and you're going to work here. So about a month and a half went by and I was working both. And then the gentleman from the back, he was like, hey, now that you're working both, did you notice an increase in your pay? And I was like, actually, I didn't even look. So I looked and I noticed there wasn't an increase in pay. So I went and talked to the general manager and I said, hey, I don't want to seem like I'm not appreciative of what's you're going on or what you've done for me. I said, but I do have a question. Since I'm doing double the work, can I get a pay raise? I think that's fair. I know I'm the only one that I know that is cleaning the dining room and doing the registers. So could I get a little pay raise since I'm doing both? He goes, yeah. He goes, let me talk to the owner and let me see what we can do about that. So I got a little pay raise. And I was super excited about that because I was like, yes, I'm working. I'm getting paid more money. As a 16-year-old kid going on 17 now, hey, life is good. I got gas money. I got money to pay for my car note. I can buy some clothes. I can go hang out with my friends when I'm not working. And then, as I'm working there, the same gentleman comes up from the back and he was like, hey, Tim. He was like, are you happy just working the front? Because, you can work in the back. And I said, well, I didn't know I could work in the back. And he goes, again, with the registers, no one's going to show you how to do it. But the more you know how to do, the more money you make. So I was like, well, can you show me how to do it? And he was like, yeah. He goes, come on back. When we're not busy, come on back. I'll show you what we got to do. So I walked in the back and he was walking me through it and he was showing me everything on how to make each of the menu items. And at first it was a little bit complicated, but then it got to be to the point where, it was more manageable and more doable. I'm taking a sip of my tea here. So I learned how to do that in the back. And so when it wasn't busy, I would go in the back and do that. So I knew how to do the dining room. I knew how to do the registers. I knew how to do the food in the back and make all the products and stuff and get it all ready. I knew how to clean all the machines. I knew how to clean up in the back. Knew everything that you needed to be doing with the back. So then a couple weeks go by and I'm looking at my pay and I'm like, let me talk to the manager one more time. So at this point, I've been working there like a year and a half, almost 2 years. And I was like, hey, I know how to do the food in the back. Can you test me on that? And if I do a good job and you think I can handle it, why don't I work in the back as well? And then if we're super slammed and I'm caught up in the back, I can always jump up on a register. And then if I could always help out in the dining room too. So I could do 3 things that you need in 3 different areas of this place. And I don't know anybody else who knows how to do that. So he goes, okay, I'll test you out. He was like, well, I want you to make these items, and these items. And then I want you to clean the machines afterwards. So I did all that. He made a couple of corrections. He was like, well, according to our standards, you have to do this, this, and this. He goes, but I'm sure the person who trained you wasn't authorized to train you, and they didn't tell you this because they're probably cutting those same corners. He was like, but yeah. He goes, you could do this. I was like, okay. So he started putting me on the schedule more for the back and on the front and for the dining room. So one, I was getting more hours because I could cover more positions when they were short. And then 2, I gained more skills and knowledge about what they wanted me to do. A couple more weeks go by. Didn't notice a pay increase. So I said, hey, man, to the manager, if we could talk for a second. We trained on 3 different things. I know how to do 3 different things. I was wondering if you could spare a raise since I'm doing 3 different jobs. And not that I know of, I don't know anybody else who is doing that. And he goes, no, you're right. Nobody else is doing that. You're very versatile on what we need. So I'll talk to the owner and see if we can get you a little raise. Come to find out, it wasn't just a little raise. It was more double than what the last two were. So I was like, oh, this is pretty awesome. So not only did I increase my skill set, I increased my diversity in the workplace, but then I also increased my pay because I was proven that I'm proficient at all three of these things. So then a year goes by and I'm doing all these things. And I'm like, you know what? I bet you that I could be like a shift leader or a manager. I'm pretty sure that since I work to close anyway, that I can work, I can do all these things, and I can count the registers out and run the night reports and close it out. And so I asked the nighttime managers and the shift leaders, I said, hey, can you show me how to change out the machines, how to, do all the things that we need to do? So can you show me how to do this? And at first they were a little bit reluctant. They were like, I don't know, we got to get approval from the owner because he's really particular about the managers because he hires the managers. And I said, that's great, but why don't I get the opportunity to try it out? And so it came down to it, and he was like, yeah. He goes, you could train him how to do it, but I don't want him to be responsible for it until you know that you can bless him off on it. And then, comes down to it. I trained up for like a month or two. It was a little bit more difficult than I thought it was going to be because there's a lot of, intricate, a lot of specifics only to that organization that those things were running. So then I was like, okay, no big deal. I learn it, become a shift leader. So now not only am I working in the front, working in the dining room, working in the back, learning how to send people on breaks when covering down on their position. Now I'm also learning how to count the registers out for the night, run the reports, do the bank deposit slip notes, the entrusted with taking of the slips, and dropping them off at the bank. And then I looked at my pay, and I was like, hey, I really appreciate the opportunities you guys are giving me here, but do you mind if I get a pay raise? And so they're like, yeah, we can help you out with a pay raise. You're going to be a manager. I was like, oh, I'm going to be a manager. And they're like, yeah, you're going to be the night shift manager. You didn't know that? And I said, no, I didn't know that. They're like, well, yeah, that's why we're training you. The owner was good with that because you know how to do everything in the restaurant. So yeah, you could be a night shift manager. So before I was 19 years old, I went from being hired to clean the bathrooms and take out the trash to being a nighttime manager at this restaurant, running reports, being responsible for money, and dropping it off in the bank. And the pay did come along with it, which was really awesome too. But this experience working at this restaurant taught me a couple of things. And along the way, it wasn't as easy as I just explained it because I got yelled at a lot. And my managers and my leaders were telling me, look, you're not authorized to do the things that you're doing. So you need to stop. You're not authorized to those things, so stop. So before we get to that point, the first principle that I learned was initiative. To take things into your own hands for your own benefit and the organization's benefit to get increased efficiencies, right? So if I kept waiting on somebody to come by and tell me, hey, we think you're cleaning the toilets really, really good. We're going to, train you how to use the register. That never would have happened. I would have been cleaning the toilets until I would have asked somebody eventually, like, hey, I'm tired of cleaning toilets. Can I learn how to do something else? And, you have to show that initiative. And that goes with any job. You have to be willing to say, hey, ask a peer for help. Ask somebody, can you train me how to do something if you don't know how to do it yourself? And take that initial step. You would be surprised how many people will reach out and offer to help you on this. So that's the first one. Show initiative no matter what you're doing. The second principle is don't ask permission, right? And I still use this principle today, and it still gets me in trouble. But as long as it's not illegal, immoral, or unethical, If you want to do it and you need to do it and you think it's in the best interest of your organization, then do it. Why not? Wolfman Jack, I don't know if you're familiar with who Wolfman Jack is. I'm going to take another sip of my tea here because I am thirsty. But if you're Wolfman Jack was a radio and he was a personality. And he was always told that he couldn't do certain things because he was always pushing the edge on the radio. Hey, you can't say that because it's not appropriate for that time. Even though he was on from like 8 o'clock at night to 4 o'clock in the morning, they were, this is way before Howard Stern ever came on the air with his antics. Well, not really antics, but his show and what he pushed the edge of appropriateness on. And Wolfman Jack always said, he goes, if I would have asked permission before I would have done anything, they always would have said no, and I never would have done it, and I never would have gotten to where I am in my career. And he goes, so it's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission. And he even got to the point where even the federal government was saying, hey, look, your radio show is an AM-based radio show. You cannot push the power from your station any more than you already are because you're doing frequency bleed over in the other stations and you're knocking them off the air. So he goes, okay. He moved to Mexico. He literally moved across the border with his show. He lived in the United States, but his show was in Mexico where that regulation didn't exist. He boosted his power triple than what the government wanted him to have it. And there's nothing they could do about it. And he got his voice out there and his message out there. And I'm not saying just to be defiant. That was just the type of personality he was and he has. And I was younger. I always wanted to be on the radio and be a DJ. And then I had an internship in college, which really turned me off from that. And now we are here today. I'm live on Podbean. I do my podcast and my YouTube show. And I just enjoy doing it as a hobby. But if you were to ask for permission, you're always going to be told no. So if you want to do something and you want to learn something, just do it. And then if you get scolded for it later, you already did it. You've already accomplished it. And you'd be like, okay, I'm sorry. I won't do that again. So once you apologize and you say you won't do it again, don't do it again, because then you become a liar and you give up your own integrity. But as long as it's not illegal, immoral, or unethical, do it. Why not? It's not going to hurt anything. So show that initiative and do what you need to do. And if someone's going to be mad at you for it, they're going to be mad at you anyway, no matter what. They'll get over it. So just say, my bad. So don't ask for permission. The other one is your self-drive goes a long way, and your own determination goes a long way. I didn't have a plan in place of when I got hired at this job. I was like, I just need some money to pay for gas, to hang out with my friends. If I want to take a girl out on a date, pay some money for that, because I'm not going to ask my parents for it, even though if I did, they would have given me some. But I'm just saying, that's something that I wanted to do. And I literally enjoyed working because I enjoyed putting in the work and getting the benefit of monetary reward. And I also learned that the more money I wanted to make, the more time I put into work. And there would be people who would complain every Friday or Saturday that they had to work. Oh, man, I'm not going to be able to hang out with my friends. I'm not going to be able to do this. Hey, I'll take your shifts. I literally would just ask people, who doesn't want to work on these days? I can cover your shift. And I would take their shifts. And I would work it. Why? Because I wanted to make more money. I wanted to work those shifts. And then when I went off to college, and I had to, save up a lot of money during the summertime to pay for my fall semesters, because the summer is where I could really make a lot of my money. I worked at a nighttime inventory store, and then during the day, I asked the owner and the manager of the company, I was like, hey, look, I know you're already paying me a certain amount. I'm not going to ask for more money as far as wages go. But can I work more shifts? Can I work 12-hour shifts instead of a 6-hour shift or an 8-hour shift? And at first they were like, you want to work 12-hour shifts? Yeah, I want to stand on my feet so my knees and my ankles and my feet hurt, and I want to work so I can earn the money so I can, earn it for school. But that self-drive and determination of standing up for 12 hours and cooking food or waiting on customers or whatever paid off, because now I could pay for college without all the student loan debt that I typically would have had if I didn't work. And then even going on into working an evening job where I would work for an inventory company. And I'm not going to name the name of the company or the name of the company that has books, but there's a lot of books out there. And when you got to count every single one of those books, and so when you're done counting your section of that inventory job, you were done. And if the little scan bar counter didn't work during that time, then you had to manually input the Q code with one hand. I learned real quick, I do not like to count things. I learned real quick, I really don't like to count things, and nor do I like to count things and then input them into a system and then have to recount and double check. It's an important job and it needs to get done. I just don't like to do it. So I did it for the time frame that I needed to do it on. And I literally got through with my own determination, because I was like, you know what? I am not going to let a job that I don't like get in the way of my end goal. I will suffer momentarily for the long-term benefit that this is going to pay off. And I learned a lot from that job. But, for the principles that we're talking about is show initiative. No matter what job you have, show initiative. No, if no one tells you to do something, but you need something to get done, do it. People will notice. And as soon as they notice, they're going to start talking to you, and you're going to start to be the go-to person in that organization for if they need stuff done. So show initiative. The second principle is, if you want to do something and it's not illegal, immoral, or unethical, do it. And if you get in trouble later for it, be like, yeah, my bad, I'm sorry. I was trying to help out the organization. I thought this was the best way to do it. And a lot of times, as you're trying to do something and you're talking to your peers and other people in the organization, if they also think it's a good idea, they're going to help you accomplish it because they see the benefit and value in it. So just something to think about for that. And, a lot of people may like it. A lot of people may not like it. But I'm just saying, if you think that you want to do a specific job, just do it. And the last thing is, stick with it. It's called grit, right? It may be hard, but all hard things are worth it in the end. Don't ever settle, and don't ever say, you know what, I'm not going to do something because it's hard. I'm going to give up way before it's too early because I don't see the benefit of it. If I would have done that, I never would have learned the things I need to learn as a younger adult. I'm still growing up. I'm still learning things. I'm still figuring it out. But I never would have gotten to where I am earlier on if I would have given up. And I definitely wouldn't have gotten where I am if I would have asked for permission. They would have straight up told me no from the get-go. So if you want to achieve something and you need to do it, don't ask permission. Just do it and get it done, get it accomplished. Most people will thank you for it anyway. And then, unless you have a micromanager and he's just like a horrible boss, then you probably don't want to work for that person anyway. I'm just saying. All right, so we're getting into the point of this episode. We're going to do a question and answer. If you're online and you have a question, I'll be here ready to answer for it. And if you are on YouTube and you're watching this, you can go to the replay of this episode later, and you can click on the link in the description below, and you can listen to the rest of the question and answers.